Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. This is our third webinar in our series of 6. So this is the last one for this calendar year. It will start up again in the new semester. And I know that this is a long-awaited webinar. Folks are really interested to hear about transportation. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our student moderator for today, Kendall Soto. She is an undergraduate student in the School of Biological and Environmental Sciences, Environmental and Biological Sciences, and she's also a member of our Student Advisory Board. So Kendall, please take it away.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for having me. We would like to welcome John. John Carnegie is the speaker for today's webinar. He's also the co-chair of the transportation, and he is the executive director of the Voorhees Transportation Center.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Kendall. We're going to, I'm super happy to be here in a couple of different capacities, just my research capacity here at the university, and certainly also as one of the co-chairs for the Transportation Climate Action Group. My plan today is to kind of share with you some existing programs and initiatives that are underway to make or help the university meet its climate goals, and also to talk to you about the next steps and the prioritization of initiatives that the Transportation Climate Action Group has already gone through. We're going to start, though, today with a little poll. If Katie can bring that up, I wanted to get your thoughts before I make my presentation on what you think the most important climate actions the university can take to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from transportation. You get one choice, so what's the most important thing? And while you're thinking about that, keep in mind what you think might be the most significant contributor to greenhouse gas emissions from transportation at the university. Katie, I can't see the results.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
I think there's enough responses to.
Okay. Yeah, I'm watching the results roll in. Oh, and we have 2 more folks joining. So we have 19 out of 23 folks have participated in the poll so far. Do you think that's good to end, or is anybody else still waiting to?
Give everyone 10 seconds more to participate. Then we'll
Sounds
up the
good.
results.
Okay. So I think that's 21 out of 23.
That's good enough.
Oh, and I didn't vote in the poll, so that might be
There
one
you
of them. All right, so I'll end poll and share the results. Can everyone see the results?
Wow, pretty evenly split here. Although make it easier easier and safer to walk and bike, and electrify the campus bus fleet. Expand bike and scooter share got 0 votes. Facilitate EV adoption, and expand remote work for faculty and staff. So pretty split between the 4 of those strategies, which are on the agenda of our Transportation Action Group, which is a good thing. All right, let's close the poll. And you guys actually did better than I thought you were going to do when we talked about this question in the planning sessions. I'm going to share my screen now. And get myself set. Give me 1 second. All right, so as I was introduced and I mentioned, I'm one of the co-chairs for the Transportation Climate Action Group. There are multiple climate action groups here at the university working on kind of operationalizing the climate action plan. I co-chair the group with Henry Valise, who is with institutional planning here at the university. We've been up and running for, I don't know, about 3-4 months, probably about 3 or 4 months, kind of getting organized and trying to understand what our charge is and what the parameters of our actions can be. which I'll share with you at the end of my presentation. So just to give you a little bit of context, the climate action plan, the university's climate action plan, sets a goal for the university of achieving carbon neutrality by 2040 and becoming carbon negative by 2041, which is a pretty steep and aggressive goal for the university. But hopefully through actions of all of us, we can hopefully achieve that. Interestingly, among the different sectors that contribute to greenhouse gases here at the university, about 20% come from the transportation sector, which is a significant share, although a smaller share than overall the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that come from transportation statewide, which is about 34%. Most of the emissions here at the university from transportation actually come from the use of private vehicles for commuting purposes and for traveling around and between campuses. The climate action plan recommended a number of mitigation solutions that should be considered as part of implementing the plan. And those are sort of highlighted here on this slide. The ones that are pertinent to transportation are highlighted in green, and those include decarbonizing the university's vehicle fleet and maintenance equipment, including buses, reducing fossil fuel related vehicle miles traveled, which is the way we talk about how much we all drive around, usually in a single occupant vehicle. And there are a number of strategies related to that. Some of them were presented in the poll. So you can see those are right here. And then finally, providing incentives to reduce emissions from business travel. And that includes faculty and staff, probably includes things related to the study abroad program and also sports related activities. So we are focusing mostly on, as you'll see, the decarbonizing vehicles and equipment and the reducing fossil fuels from vehicle miles traveled, although we do still have that kind of business travel item on our agenda. So over the next 6 to 12 months, we were charged with doing a number of things, one of which, such as we're doing today, is engaging faculty, staff, and students in the process of thinking about what it's going to take to implement and operationalize the climate action solutions under consideration. That may include reviewing policies and procedures to identify different opportunities to incorporate climate action. For example, thinking about the way we schedule classes, always keeping track of the way the bus system is operating and how the routes are functioning, that sort of thing. We also want to make sure that the solutions that we come up with are just and equitable, treating all the populations here at the university equally, as well as making sure that the burdens and the benefits of the solutions we come up with don't disproportionately impact different population groups that are part of the university community. We will be thinking about the metrics we can use to monitor our progress, some of which are obvious and others perhaps not. Part of that will include an annual survey. As you'll see, it will be an annual survey of students, faculty, and staff in terms of their travel behavior here at the university. And then finally, we are also coordinating with the other climate action groups that were created as part of this effort to make sure that we're all kind of moving in the same climate positive direction. So just wanted to start with a little bit of a review on some of the activities that are already ongoing at the university. Will continue, perhaps be enhanced or expanded. And these include things like keeping track of and understanding how the bus routes and stops are functioning, making adjustments, kind of monitoring that as needed. Working with partners such as New Jersey Transit to offer discounts and things of that nature. Institutional planning and operations also has been looking at how they can partner with other organizations to offer additional discounts and things of that nature. Bicycle and pedestrian activity was one of the top choices there in the poll. So you may or may not know that the university maintains a bicycle rental program that's sort of on a monthly, semester, summer basis. For $25, you can have access for the semester to a bicycle. Also $25 for the summer. I think it's $10 a month. If that is a way for you to enhance your mobility and reduce emissions from your travel around. There's also an e-scooter program, which many of you are probably familiar with here in New Brunswick, as well as on the Newark campus. There are also other scooter share programs in place in Newark. And then the university, through its physical master planning process and understanding where there are problems around the university in terms of intra-campus travel, inter-campus travel, have a program where they look to enhance and expand the bicycle and pedestrian network on an ongoing kind of active basis. And that includes also kind of partnering with the host communities, because many of the routes between campuses in particular are off-campus property, but on municipal or county or state-owned facilities. There are, as I mentioned, a number of incentives. Employees, for instance, can participate in the commuter tax save program, which allows them to put away money for transportation-related costs of commuting before tax dollars. So there's a bit of savings there. The university anyone within the university community can avail themselves of the various types of services and programs available at organizations that are called the Transportation Management Associations here in New Jersey. So Camden campus is served by Cross County Connection. The New Brunswick area is served by KMM, Keep Middlesex Moving, and then the Newark campus is served by Easy Ride. And the Transportation Management Associations do everything from sort of help you understand what your travel options are, to working with employers and others to figure out ways to reduce the amount of single occupant vehicles coming to other sites. I didn't mention before, but should mention here that New Jersey Transit offers a 25% discount off monthly passes for students as part of the New Jersey Transit Student Pass program. So you can avail yourselves of that to actually get to campus, or perhaps from campus to other locations that you might need to go. Electrification, also a significant strategy and option shown in the survey there, as well as we know, for a couple different reasons, will be critical to helping to reach our climate goals. And that is both for people to have the ability to transition to electric personal vehicles and have the ability to charge on campus if needed, to reduce the emissions from commuting, as well as electrifying the bus fleet, as well as the substantial number of university-owned vehicles that are used for operations purposes. So there are a number of things in the planning phase at the moment for transitioning to kind of an e-bus fleet, as well as e-vehicles in the operations. The university took delivery on I think one or two electric vans that are being used now. We're experimenting with seeing how those function in operations. Electrifying the bus fleet is another challenge that will probably take a number of years to planning and working towards implementation, and a significant investment of dollars to transition the bus fleet. One thing that the university is doing towards that end is trying to reduce the number of miles that in the interim that the current diesel buses need to travel to get to campus. So they're advancing a project to create an on-campus bus depot, as well as research items and understanding what types of technologies are available to function under very high loads in a cold weather climate, which affects the battery life of buses and how well they function. In addition, I mentioned the fleet work that's going on as well in terms of the electric medium duty vehicles, which you can see a picture of here, as well as experimenting with different ways of installing EV charging station infrastructure across the university, including perhaps taking delivery of a prototype mobile charging device that would be able to be deployed at different locations, has multiple charging cables associated with it, and it's solar powered. So we're going to be experimenting with that. And then finally, in terms of existing initiatives, the university has had for a number of years a solar canopy program that has advanced projects to install solar canopy over parking lots and decks, and that work continues, including potential future installations across all 3 campuses. That's just a little bit of examples of the things that are already ongoing that fit into this idea of climate action from transportation that will help to meet the goals. The climate action groups met 3 times at this point, and we've advanced to the point where we think we know where we're going. And the first step will be to create 3 subcommittees, one on electrification, one focused on streets, and the third on travel behavior. And we've laid out at least an initial kind of working plan for the types of projects that we hope to advance over the next couple of years. And please understand that this is we're considering this a living document that will, I'm sure, be tweaked and changed and evolve over time, especially as we learn more and gain insights from some of the research and investigation tasks that are going to be part of the work that we do over the next 6 to 9 months. So in terms of electrification, that's going to include figuring out what it might take through a study to develop EV charging station infrastructure throughout the university. I know that Dunbar is on the call, and we did, or on the webinar, we did a exchange a little bit during the email here. Dunbar Bernie, one of the faculty here at the university, has been working in the space a bit, and we may be able to bring him on board to learn from his research and insights to help the university in this regard. We also expect to conduct a sort of scan of leading practices to understand from transit agencies that have already advanced the implementation of electric bus fleets, what they've learned in terms of the bus technologies, the charging technologies, operational approaches to transitioning to an electrified bus fleet, as well as maintaining and operating that type of an electric bus fleet in heavy load and cold weather conditions. In terms of streets, a couple different directions here, including the bicycle and pedestrian improvements. So the idea is to sort of initiate a study to understand where the problems are, how we can improve and enhance bicycle and pedestrian facilities and amenities between campuses, within campuses, on different campuses, both in all 3, Camden, Newark, and New Brunswick. We expect to kind of survey university the bicycle rental participants and the university community on e-scooter program to see how that's functioning for them and how we might tweak those programs, expand those programs. We also plan to initiate a study to improve and enhance the kind of intra-campus wayfinding signs that are out there. One of the things that's been observed in research is people notoriously overestimate the distance between point A and point B that they need to travel. So we're going to be looking at practices where the actual distance is included in terms of miles or minutes to get between destinations, to hopefully help people make decisions about walking and biking that might be more informed, in particular, to relieve a little bit of the load on the campus bus system. And then finally, there's an idea called green streets, which is bringing elements of nature-based solutions and green infrastructure to the university's street network and parking facilities, and essentially making those more sustainable from a climate perspective. Green infrastructure can both sequester carbon as well as relieve some of the impacts from stormwater flooding and heat island effects. So that's the kind of agenda for the streets committee. And then finally, the travel behavior committee will be looking at conducting an annual university-wide travel survey, which will go out in probably the first quarter of calendar year 2023. And also looking at ways to eliminate, where possible, the need to travel between campuses. That might include additional review of the current bus routing, investigating express bus routes. It might, be revisiting the scheduling procedure, how parking permits are issued, lots of kind of policy and operational strategies, and how those are impacting the way we travel. And then finally, doing a better job of promoting the incentive programs that are out there for travel alternatives in terms of discounts or awards and things like that, and experimenting perhaps with ways to expand the portfolio of those incentives to increase the incentive to travel differently. And then you can see if it gets a little thinner on our FY24 and FY25 agendas. And that's partly because we're going to be learning and figuring out some things from the work we do over the next 6 to 8 months. And then we'll be revisiting the work plan to decide, how to advance the ideas that we come up with and how to sustain those over time. So many of the things that we're talking about here, like improving pedestrian and bicycle facilities, like electrifying the bus system, looking at policies that affect travel on campus, are really multi-year initiatives. So the things that happen in the first year will influence things that happen in the second year, the third year, and perhaps infinitely into the future. So that is what we're doing as the Transportation Work Group, and I look forward to our conversation and discussion here this afternoon. I will stop sharing now. Right, I think we're doing well on time. I see some hands up. Don't forget, you can use chat as well to offer some questions or discussion items or whatever you'd like.
We can get
go ahead.
The question and answer portion. Thank you again, John. You can leave your hands raised if you have a question. You can type it in the chat. We will start off with an initial question that we have made already. Should I wait, Katie, for you to project the question, or I can ask it?
No, you can directly ask the question, and I would just add that our student advisory board brainstormed a couple of questions that the student body wanted to have answered, and if you start off maybe like 2 of those, and we'll hop to the audience.
Sure, yeah. So just to reiterate, the Student Advisory Board are a collection of student leaders that are from all chancellor units, all campus locations, graduate schools, undergraduate schools, and these are just some pressing ideas that we have. My first question, John, is how will Rutgers work to improve dangerous crossings for pedestrians, cyclists, people on scooters, etc.? This is including spots where Rutgers may not have jurisdiction. Some concerned areas that we explained here are Route 18, landing lane bridges, including steep curbs, on and off bike paths, or parks on the way to campus, campus to Rutgers Garden access, and Bush to Livingston.
That is a great question. Thank you very much. I wish Henry was here with me, because he has the sort of power to answer this question with confidence and potential future affirmative action. But the way I understand the process the institutional planning goes through is each of the campuses has there's sort of a combination of things that happen. There's a kind of a long-term planning process for each of the campuses in terms of the physical build out of the campus, circulation, all that sort of stuff. So some things may be addressed through that process, through the regular capital planning process. I know that they also have a sort of active kind of response approach to problems that emerge or places where there might be crashes and things of that nature. They have a active dialogue with all of the host communities. And one of the things we've talked about doing through this process is reinvigorating those conversations with the lens of climate action and connecting climate action, which is important at the municipal level as well, to improving the pedestrian and bicycle environment. So there may be an opportunity to partner with the folks that have jurisdiction over the facilities that are not on campus, especially in the context of the significant increase in funding that will be coming down from the federal government, about a 30% increase in federal dollars for transportation infrastructure improvements. So much of that will flow through the State Department of Transportation and other transportation agencies to local governments to make improvements. And we hope that some of that money at least is prioritized for pedestrian and bicycle improvements over the next 5 to 10 years. So I know you gave very specific examples, which is good. I've heard in conversations a couple of those. Those will certainly take back to Henry and his team. I see Jennifer's on the call. And I welcome anyone from institutional planning that is on the call to offer additional insights in response to that question. Jennifer has any interest in weighing in or not?
Yeah, feel free to raise your hand if you wanted to add anything.
All right, Angie, is there a mechanism for getting since that first question is out of my sphere of influence, is there a way to get additional response to everybody that's on the call?
Sure, we've got folks through the mail list, so we can get a response to the question and send it out through the registrant list.
Great, because I know Henry and his team probably can do a better job of answering it than I did.
So we can start with the first two hands, and then Monica, would you like to?
Sure. Monica Roth at Robert Wood. I know in the committee meetings, we discussed the problem of having the electric buses be extra heavy for the amount of students that use it. But I was wondering if we're also considering two types of fleets, one for when there are less people using it, especially at the nights and night times and off-peak hours during the summer, so that we would be able to have meet the needs with not spending the amount of money to accommodate the high flux times.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges always with running and operating a transit system is making sure you have the right mix of vehicles. Probably even more important when you're considering a transition to electric vehicles. So one of the things we hope to learn from the leading practice scan is how agencies that have implemented electric buses have kind of grappled with that, the need to have a different set of vehicles to meet different needs in their service areas. I should mention too that just so folks understand the scale of the bus operations here at the university, we have a bus ridership that is equal to or greater than many small cities around the country. So it is like we have our own city bus system operating here in the greater New Brunswick area and to a lesser extent New York. So the comparisons are apt in terms of the agencies that we'll be looking at to hopefully understand what some of the best practices are and what lessons have been learned from others who have done this already.
Thank you, John. Just a quick follow-up that I have. I know that there's growing support for maybe a diverse portfolio of energy sources, including some renewable that's easier to integrate. Is this something that the transportation sectors is open to having, maybe a few electric buses, or does the entire fleet need to be changed in order to integrate that?
Yeah, so it's definitely not all or nothing. There are operational considerations that are going to be important, in terms of maintaining the vehicles on a regular basis from a repair perspective, how much garage space is required, what kind of training the existing operational staff need to do that kind of work, what our contracting relationships are, because the university is, pays a contractor to operate our bus system. I think from the conversations that I've been privy to, sort of everything is on the table to figure out the best way to do this. So if that means, a mixed fleet, then that might be the solution that gets advanced.
Hey, John,
Hi,
can I
and-
step in here for a second? It's John Karakoglu from
Hey, John.
Transportation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think the way that we're thinking about starting this is just add a couple buses in at a time. Maybe do a route and then see what the data ends up showing us, and then going from there. Like right now, we bought a couple of hybrid buses that we put in Newark and Camden. And, maybe that's how we start our smaller fleet, and then add and then decide when we need to run diesel, when we can run electric, how long they'll last on the road. These are all the things we're looking into now.
Great. Thanks, John.
Thank you. It's good to hear what is happening at all 3 campuses. And your hand is raised?
Hi, I'm Zania Morin, and I'm here as part of the EV car users. I'm a faculty member at SEBS. And so I actually have a couple questions. In the transportation department and in the group, how many people own EVs or are actually EV users is my first question.
So from what I understand, we don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
But we hope to learn more from the survey that we'll be doing. And I think there are some other ways under consideration to sort of figure out where and how the vehicle use deploys around the university. I know that there are probably anecdotal and some operational data that exists from our existing network of chargers, but it's certainly not comprehensive and complete. One of the things actually all of the climate action groups are grappling with is the question of data to inform decisions, and understanding what data we need, what data we have, what data we need to collect in order to kind of make the best decisions about, in this case, where to deploy infrastructure. But that example kind of permeates throughout all of the work of all the action groups.
Okay. The other thing is I was a part of a group in Martin Hall who helped get one of the very first grants to install charge stations. And I think that there's a real chicken and egg part here. I think it's really critical for both our students and our employees to get them into either hybrid or electric cars as soon as possible, not only for the climate benefits, but for the air quality benefits, et cetera. But a piece that I think I didn't see, and forgive me if I missed it, what happened to ride sharing and getting more people to carpool in different locations around the state, and like go beyond this, that maybe we have buses that pick up people at a particular parking lot in a particular place to bring people in. Have we given up on that kind of ride sharing programs? I know that there's like a website in the sustainability site, but I'm also thinking about how do we get more people into the cars, that are coming to campus?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I should have mentioned that each of the transportation management associations that I described, Cross County, KMM, and Easy Ride, all maintain a ride matching program. Enrollment in those programs has been declining for a decade for a variety of reasons, probably, and the pandemic did not help much in terms of people's confidence in sharing rides with folks they don't know, or getting in a van and it's close quarters and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's off the table. It probably fits within the in the purview of the travel behavior group to understand what it might take to create an incentive for people to do more ride matching, either on their own or through an organized program. And one of the things we envision the survey doing is taking a temperature of the community, the university community population, to see what their feelings are towards different strategies and what types of incentives might be needed to get them to feel differently about those strategies.
I would argue, since we did the climate task force initial work, with gasoline going up, I think, when we started hitting $4, $4.50, understanding what that price sensitivity is as far as commuting, that's a whole economic piece that I don't think we were considering significantly, but I don't see gas prices going down. So you may have a window of opportunity to capture on people's interest for ride sharing going forward.
Yeah, thank you for that. And actually, past research in New Jersey has shown that tipping point is about $4 a gallon, where people start to make different choices. And as it goes up, more people continue to make those different types of choices. So it's also interesting. We've had this discussion, the intersection of commuting habits and the post-pandemic hybrid work schedule situation. So just by having the portion of the university's population that is doing a 3-day work week, we've cut those commuting emissions by 40%. So it's a significant reduction. And one of the things that we hope to do is make sure that the decision makers, when evaluating the efficacy of the hybrid work pilot project, is that they consider the greenhouse gas emission benefits of that hybrid work situation.
Thank you very much for answering my question.
Thank you. We have some questions in the chat that we're going to look at first. So John, is there anything that Rutgers is doing from a scheduling perspective to understand the dynamics of when and where classes are and how that impacts student faculty bus use?
So,
John, you want me to answer that?
you go for it.
Yeah, we're working with the Office of Scheduling. We meet with them constantly to find out if students are taking back-to-back classes, the different ways they're traveling around. So yes, we meet with them constantly, and we'll be working with them so to try to schedule, let's say you'll schedule all your classes on one campus if possible, so you're not moving at all. So that's going to help. That's going to help a lot, and we're just in constant communication with them.
Yeah, there was I guess it was a few years ago, there was sort of a comprehensive review of the scheduling process.
Yes.
It's just, we've had a little bit of discussion about that at the task force or the action group level. And when you dive just a little bit below the surface, you realize how complex that question is in terms of, faculty wanting to select their rooms and all sorts of considerations that don't even immediately seem obvious. Sure. So it is a very complex question, but the university is actively keeping track of it.
One follow-up question: how long would you say you've built this relationship with the scheduling office?
I think we'd always had some kind of contact with them, but over the past, since the pandemic started, we reached out even more.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question we have: is there an option to get smaller buses for nighttime or lesser used routes?
Yes, and we do that on certain nights. We run the night mover, which is a smaller bus, but at times, it's even depending on we're watching the passenger loads constantly. So if there's an opportunity to put a smaller bus on a route, we do it.
And is there any data on how many bikes are out there in this bike rental program, and how much is rented per month or year?
Yeah, they're all rented out at this point, and we have about 85 bikes. And at this point, they're rented out. So we're looking to buy more bikes. So as they're coming in now, we're renting them back out So it's working well.
That's awesome to hear about that they're all rented out.
Yeah.
Are there plans, do you think that for the next semester there will be more, or is it a
I
long?
think it'll take a little longer than that, but usually the rentals go down in the winter time.
And do you have any idea about the summer, just quickly?
Yeah, that could be a possibility. You know, well, we'll meet with Henry. We're meeting with Henry, I think, on the 20th to discuss it.
Thanks, John.
Welcome.
Thank you. And there's a link in the chat to sign up for bike rentals and more information about that program. I'm just checking to make sure I didn't miss any questions.
Yes. I see a question in there in the chat that just popped up that is a good thought in terms of the survey that we're going to be doing is understanding how students are moving for non-class purposes, in particular in this question of work. So duly noted, we'll add that to the survey.
Thank you, because it suddenly occurred to me that so many of our students do work, whether it's work study or they're working in the dining halls, and part of their logistics is figuring out how to get from A to B for work purposes as well as their classes. So that would be great to add that.
Yeah, I wonder if there is yet maybe some incentive that people that hire on-campus jobs have for giving students that live or have parking passes for certain campuses to have get hired more on those locations. Monica?
Hi, I just want to have a follow-up question regarding the bike rental. So I rented a bike for the summers, and I wanted to focus, like, we aren't provided any helmet for the safety of us. So if helmets can be distributed with the bike, it would be nice, because a student like, I was renting only for 1 month, so I don't see any point buying a helmet just for 1 month. So I was riding without helmet, though I was feeling unsafe also. So it would be a nice idea that along with the lock also, helmet can also be distributed.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I heard that New Jersey is going to start a law maybe that is mandatory that you wear a helmet from now on.
Hmm. So if the helmets can also be rented out along with the bike, maybe charge also $5 or $10, something like that.
Sure, that's a good idea. We'll just have to figure a way to sanitize them.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I know that I also work with the student assembly at Rutgers, and there was an early program when we got back to campus 2 years ago for the e-scooters for giving out helmets. I think that it shouldn't have just been in the first month, and maybe we can organize this to be something that we distribute maybe every semester or something.
Yeah, good idea.
So one question from the Student Advisory Board again is, what trade-offs are involved in reducing travel between campuses? Could this increase isolation between campuses? And yeah, so what are the trade-offs between this?
Yeah, I don't know, John, if you want to chime in there, but
I think you're better at this than me.
there are a lot of trade-offs. We talked about the complexities. I think the mixing of students on campuses, the need to deal with a limited dormitory space, the off-campus housing challenge. There are just so many considerations. I can imagine isolation being one of them, in terms of insulating students that are more likely to be on College Ave versus Bush campus or whatever. Well, each of the campuses has different amenities and a sort of different feel to it. Part of the Rutgers experience is kind of being able to avail yourselves of all of that. I know that I've been around a long time in the Rutgers community, When I was in school, we had separate colleges and there was much less mixing between. There was some travel between, but you could essentially schedule yourself all on one campus, and a lot of students tried to do that. I think there are benefits to be had to being exposed to different groups of students around each of the campuses. So it is a complex question that needs a lot of considerations. We have different amounts of parking on different campuses. So if students have a need to have a car on campus, that's a consideration. Just it's a very complex mix of decision parameters.
Yeah, from the student perspective, I know there's a few concerns with having equal quality resources. I know, just for instance, with the dining halls, there's different claims that sometimes some are better than the others. So I guess that might be an externality that might need to be a little more considered if you wanted to maybe add this trade-off idea into your survey somehow.
Great, that's excellent. Thank you.
Okay, and then another question that we have in the chat is that, are there efforts to work with local governments to improve bike infrastructure? I know you mentioned a little bit in the plan, this bettering of relationships with the local government. Maybe you could describe that more?
Yeah, so like the folks in institutional planning have long-standing relationships with the planners, engineers, people in the mayor's office, the communities that host our campuses. Like I said, I think one of the opportunities here is to tie the conversations around pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure improvements to climate, because the combination of those two things might be more attractive to the elected officials in a municipality, because they're often very motivated by issues of sustainability and quality of life and things like that. So I think it's a sort of new opportunity to strengthen the town and gown relationships that we have. Sort of remains to be seen, and I don't want to diminish at all the existing relationships that are out there. Resources have been a perennial problem, kind of identifying what the solutions are, convincing the engineers who have to sign off and make decisions about these things, and then finding the money to actually build them. I think that, like I said, the opportunity that will be available over the next 5 to 10 years to spend 30% more federal dollars on infrastructure is an unbelievable opportunity that we can either make smart choices about or less smart choices about. So one of the things that we're trying to do in terms of the research we're doing at the Voorhees Transportation Center and some of the kind of information sharing and thought provoking that we're doing is this is a crossroads. So let's aim for the transformative investments and a little less of the business as usual and maybe the backsliding investments.
Xenia, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, a couple comments and a couple questions. We switched to teaching at 8:30 in the morning, and many of my students found it hard to get to campus on time because that is the peak of staff and employees coming to campus, particularly if they were coming off Route 1. I'm sure you're familiar with, off the turnpike. And so in considering about scheduling, I think we might want to think again about staggered commuting for our staff, our faculty, and our students, instead of saying, okay, everyone needs to be at work at 8:30, because I think that's creating congestion. We're using more energy to get here. So that's just an observation for me in the classroom with my students teaching an 8:30 class. Previously, it was 9:10. That allowed for a little bit more flexibility. And I don't know if any of the students on this have an 8:30 class, but I want to share that. I have another question. I know that resources and land is always a challenge. Many of the students at SEBS informally parked at the old Sears parking lot off Ryder Lane. And if you're rethinking about bus resources and different things, it seems to me there's a property there that's in an economic development zone that may be prime for thinking about parking differently or having the bus EV depot, things like that. And so my question is that on the table in the discussions locally, how that property would work? It showed me that students were happy to have a satellite parking that was close to, Route 1, which and the Turnpike, which is a major commuting route.
I do not feel equipped to answer that question, although I, observationally would agree that satellite parking options are feasible. Although, satellite parking that's not fee-based is an incentive to continue to drive as opposed to accessing the campus through other means. So, again, this trade-off question in terms of making it easier to drive, and then they don't have to drive when they get to campus versus having them access the campus in a different way in the first place.
Yeah, Zena, they're building, I think, housing over there. So that whole area is going to be redeveloped, but definitely not going to leave it as a parking lot. It's going to be a lot of people there. I think something like 700 units or something like that.
So in talking with my students about why they don't take public transportation, some of them are not near public transportation routes at home, and their only way is to really drive. The SEBS Douglas campus is not close to the train, not connected to the rest of the county through buses. And so I think some of this analysis needs to be done, at a more local level. And we have a fair number of commuters. And again, it may be much smaller than SAS, but again, those of us that are closer to that car infrastructure, it's going to be a little harder. So maybe gathering them at the edges of the campus and then bringing them in other ways is maybe a better way. But I'm sure you guys have been thinking about this.
Yeah, thank you.
And there is actually a study funded and being advanced by New Jersey Transit that I don't know the exact name of it. It's basically a greater New Brunswick area transit study that's looking at the relationship between all the surrounding communities and all the trip generators in the greater New Brunswick area, existing bus routes, opportunities for different types of services like dedicated bus lanes and things like that to actually make the accessing a little bit easier. And one of the things that they're talking about is, and in particular Middlesex County is exploring, is this idea of satellite parking to come into New Brunswick that would capture people more at the periphery of the really congested part of where Route 1 and Route 18 come together. So it is part of the conversations, and it's part of the conversations that institutional planning is involved in, but probably not within the exact purview of this group. But the university is definitely working with its partners in that regard.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Christoph? I think you're muted. I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Okay,
Thank
can
you.
you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Christoph Büttner. I'm the Chief of Endocrine at Robert Wood Johnson. And from a public health perspective, obesity and diabetes are major problems, metabolic disease, and all of this could be prevented if we would only move and eat differently. And so biking, I think, is actually a really important issue, and it should really become a priority to advocate with the local government on bike infrastructure, and not just say, well, there are opportunities, but I would rather wish that Rutgers has a much more proactive role where a small committee then points out why students almost never bike, quite frankly, and always depend on buses and or their cars. And there are reasons for that. And the bike infrastructure is miserable. and people don't feel safe when they bike. And so this, I think, really is a major gap where Rutgers itself can, I think, will have a lot of say and force and power if they decide to do so. So I would hope that this really does become a priority. Again, from a public health perspective, the benefits are go far beyond climate issues.
Thank you. I think that this has been a great webinar in the sense of really showing us what priorities you all feel have on transportation. I'm sure John and the Office of Climate Action can agree. If you have any last thoughts, feel free to type them in the chat. I do think we will start to conclude. Some things that we wanted to mention here was thank you, everybody, and please consider joining us for the adaptation, food, procurement, and waste webinars. Angie, did you have more thoughts?
So those will be coming up in the spring. Please sign up for our newsletter, or if you indicated in your registration that you would like to be on our newsletter, I'll add you. I have to finalize the dates for those.
And feel free to type everything in the chat now and we will look at it later. Use these minutes or turn your mic on for these next few minutes and add something.
I'll also say if you have additional questions that you weren't able to ask now or you think of something later, please feel free to reach out to any of us and we will make sure that they get to the group that's working on this. Thank you all so much for coming and engaging and having such fantastic questions. There will be a recording of this that will be posted afterwards for those who were unable to make it. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. Hope to see you at the next webinar. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
And also thanks for the great conversation in the chat and the presentations. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.